It is now some 12 years since the Society carried out its award-winning survey and excavations on the medieval iron smelting site at Myers Wood near Kirkburton, arguably the most important project both locally and nationally in the history of the Society. Today, Myers Wood is a mixture of mature conifer and deciduous woodland, probably deliberately planted in the 1940s by the administrators of the Stalsall Hospital as a potential future cash crop. Several streams flow through the wood to join Thunderbridge Dyke on the north side. Originally, Myers Wood was part of the Stalsall estate, the surviving 18th century mansion of which stands on the hillside overlooking Myers Wood, complete with its restored walled kitchen garden. In 1900, the Stalsall estate was bought by the West Riding, where it erected a large, secure asylum for those suffering from a wide range of mental illnesses, so typical of the way mental health was dealt with in the late Victorian and Edwardian period. The mansion was also included as part of the hospital. The asylum would eventually be home to several thousand patients. Stalsall Hospital, as it was later renamed in more enlightened times, closed in 1991 and its buildings demolished, although the mansion was sold to a private buyer and returned to its former 18th century glory. There were at this time several ambitious proposals as to how best to exploit this brownfield site. There was talk that Huddersfield University would move its campus here, lock, stock and barrel, from the centre of Huddersfield. But this came to nothing, although the university did erect several large blocks of student flats, which are still in use. On the site of the demolished hospital, it was also proposed to build a self-contained retirement village with all the necessary services for an elderly clientele. But this too was kicked into the long grass. Today the site and the remaining rubble from the demolished hospital is being rapidly reclaimed by nature. The historical and archaeological potential contained within Myers Wood was first spotted by Society member Granville Clay whilst walking there with his dog Nell. He noticed several deposits of slag. Were these merely the byproduct from the asylum boiler house, which many had assumed, dumped in an out-of-way corner of the hospital grounds, or could they point to another more interesting interpretation? These piles of slag, which in fact turned out to be medieval in origin, can still be seen today, although they are easily overlooked, since they seem to have attracted a dark green covering of moss. So just what might have been happening here some 700 years ago? Probably something like this: an area free from trees where quite intense industrial activity was being carried out, involving iron smelting furnaces similar to these pictured here. These cylindrical furnace shafts were constructed of wet clay and probably supported by stonework. Iron ore, which had first been roasted to burn off the carbonate, was then mixed with charcoal and placed in the furnace. It was ignited and air was blown in through an opening called a tuyere to increase the overall temperature. When the required temperature had been reached, molten tap slag would flow from the bottom of the furnace. The furnace itself would then be demolished to access the iron bloom, as it was called. This would then require further processing at the smithy. Once the historical potential of the site was agreed on, Bradford University was approached to carry out a joint archaeological exploration with our society. The university would provide the expertise in the form of Dr. Jerry MacDonnell and Rob Vernon, and the society would provide the labour. It was gratifying, therefore, that over several seasons of work, many members of the society were able to gain valuable hands-on experience under the guidance of our two university experts. And even more gratifying, that these excavations led to the discovery of a site which English heritage itself acknowledged was of national importance. But not only did Bradford bring their expertise, they also came with their sophisticated surveying equipment to probe more deeply than the society could into the hidden secrets of Myers Wood. This included both geophysics and then archaeomagnetics, where the Earth's magnetic field is used to measure the time the furnaces were last fired. Surveying amongst the tightly packed trees and the thick undergrowth was no easy matter. And of course, Sod's law of archaeology guaranteed that on one of the most interesting sites, a mature tree would be found growing in the middle of it. The remains of several bloomery furnaces like this were found and excavated, and all the evidence uncovered, especially the almost 300 tons of slag, points to an iron production on this site over a long period of time. Samples were sent to New Zealand for carbon dating, and this confirmed activity from the 13th century up to the 15th. Pottery fragments were also found and analysed, the main pottery type being Pennine gritty-ware. This was produced in West Yorkshire between the 11th and early 14th centuries. One of the conditions of the Heritage Lottery grant, which was received to help with the excavation work, was that the site should be open to visitors, and an explanation of what was happening should be provided for them. Here we see first Bon Spence and then Rob Vernon talking to such a group of visitors. Although no conclusive evidence was uncovered in this excavation, it is likely that there was a settlement close by the industrial process, and that the whole enterprise was probably controlled from the Grange at Thunder Bridge, an outpost of the Cistercian Abbey at Roche in South Yorkshire. It was, of course, these Cistercian monks who were the big industrialists of the Middle Ages. They required iron for the tools to farm their extensive land holdings across the north of England. Still today, a track runs alongside the Thunderbridge Dyke, linking Myers Wood with Thunderbridge Village and the ancient Grange site. The importance of the excavations at Myers Wood and the almost unique evidence of medieval iron smelting which these excavations revealed was nationally acknowledged in two prestigious awards. Firstly, the Mick Aston Presentation Award, and here we see the late Mick Aston visiting Myers Wood. And then, secondly, the Institute of Field Archaeologists Award, the project described by the judges as a runaway success story. Here, members of the Society and Bradford University are presented with the award at a ceremony in Belfast in 2004. In 2004, and revised in 2006, the Society published this booklet describing the results of the excavations at Myers Wood. Of course, it contains much more detail than I have been able to include in this video, and is highly recommended. A few copies are still available from the Society, costing £4. Unfortunately, 12 years later, we are still waiting for Bradford University's write-up of their contribution to the excavations. And what of the future for Myers Wood and its archaeological links with the Middle Ages? English Heritage has acknowledged its national importance, but there is no protection order on the woods. Mountain bikers, for example, are keen to practice their skills over our buried furnace sites, and it can only be a matter of time before the old Stawths Hall Hospital site, and then, possibly, all the surrounding land, including Myers Wood, attracts the attention of developers. Indeed, on many of the trees in the woods, the builder-developer Younger Homes have posted "Keep Out" notices. But at least the Huddersfield Archaeological Society has made its mark there, and left a permanent record of what it has discovered, of which this little film is but a small part.